Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Stephanie, and I am the executive assistant here at SmartSimple. Joining me today are colleagues Eric and Greg. Before we dive into content, there's just two quick housekeeping items to go over. First is that this is being recorded, so you will have the opportunity to watch the session again, should you choose to. And secondly, we are asking that if you do have any questions to please pop them in the Q&A feature below. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible by the end. In the event that we can't get to all of the questions, we will reach out to you post-webinar. And with that, I'm going to pass that off to you, Greg.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good morning, good afternoon, folks. My name is Greg Stanley, and I'm Director of Platform Solutions with SmartSimple. You're all very welcome to our webinar this morning, where we're going to present SmartSimple Cloud plus AI. It goes without saying that Eric and I and the wider team at SmartSimple are very, very excited to present this to you this morning. It's been a really interesting project that we've had the opportunity to work on, and look forward to taking you through some illustrative examples that we've configured a little bit later on. But with that being said, I'll pass over to Eric and let him introduce himself.
Perfect. Thanks, Greg. Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending today. We're very excited, as Greg mentioned. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at SmartSimple, so it's pretty amazing to be here this time. Having been at the company for since its inception, being here to talk about AI in the context of software and our platform is pretty cool in my books. So why don't we get started? And we thought just to kick off the session today, we just want to give you a little bit of a history, I guess, of the platform and some of the innovation that we've kind of done throughout the years, some milestones as far as our technology was concerned. So as I said, I've been around since 2002. In those days when we just started, we were part of an incubator program out of the University of Toronto. At the time, there was 4 of us in a shared office space, and it's exciting to be here in 2023 and see how we've grown. But over the years, we've developed a few features within the platform. Just of note here, we called out a few of them. In 2004 is when we came up with the Universal Tracking app. So that's really the backbone of the system, and that's what everyone's using here today in your platform. Everything that makes the application managers, budget managers, program managers, all those UTAs, as you hear us calling, our modules, that's what that's built on. And that was our the first real innovation we had within the platform to allow us to grow the business and really address everybody's business process automation needs. From there, we created what we call internally data exchange, which allows the sharing of information between 2 different instances or SmartSimple systems. This was primarily adopted in the early days by our insurance clients here in Canada in relation to medical claims management. So what that allows us to do is send information back and forth between 2 different SmartSimple systems in a secure manner, and really it's like passing records between one system to the next. And kind of operating them independently, but they kind of maintain a link. We've actually expanded, it's not on the list here today, but we've expanded that recently to what we were referring to as our federated model, in which some government and state agencies are using with which to share information amongst their community, but every client gets to use their own instance of SmartSimple, but share data without having to all log into the same system. Another milestone, which nothing to do with really our technology from a software perspective, but more from our infrastructure. That took place in 2011 with our AWS hosting. So prior to that, we were hosting in our own data centers, co-location facilities, as they were called back in the day. But by becoming a partner with AWS, it really allowed us to go global, in which we can host data across the globe into the respective regions as necessary. This has become so important these days with data privacy, personally identifiable information, security, things of that nature. So that really allowed us to expand across the globe. Some of you may remember the next one, and this was sort of a precursor to what we're seeing today with AI and what's become popular in the news. But we had what we called Janus, which is our machine learning tool. So this is really to be kind of like a predictive analytics. So I guess it's early AI days, but the thought behind that was if we can plug a bunch of data into the machine learning, and then it can make predictions or say, oh, based on the data that you fed me, we think, this would be the outcome, or it would show consistencies and say, oh, actually, when you're granting and when you approve grants, they all have these similar properties. So that was a tool that was released back in 2014. And now, almost 10 years later, we're really excited to, add these large language models with OpenAI, Google Bard, just to name a few. And really, it's something very interesting. I kind of liken it back to the days, for those of you who are kind of dating myself here, back in 2002, even working on the web was fairly new from a business perspective, and people were adopting cloud-based platforms to do business, and now it's commonplace. We're living on the web, and in business, we're living in the web in our personal lives. And now this is the next step here, and we're seeing the emergence of this AI really taking things to the next level. So how did we do this? So this is just a high-level diagram of how we're integrating to something like OpenAI, for example. And when I say, I'll probably refer to OpenAI throughout the session today, and so will Greg. But really, it's not just OpenAI, it's really any AI service. So we built it with the intent that, OpenAI AI or ChatGPT is not going to be the only player in the market. There will be, and there are other AI services, and the intent is that we can plug into any one of those that you may be using or that is your preference. So what happens here is we have our different instances of SmartSimple Cloud. Those are all the systems that you are logging into as clients. And we've built out our AI integration server. So this allows us to feed information first from SmartSimple Cloud into the AI integration server, which then feeds into the AI services. And then any response coming back, again, passes through the integration server and back into your particular instance of SmartSimple Cloud. The key thing here is what we're calling out on the diagram, which is really the variable processor. So it allows us to take information from SmartSimple in the form of the variables. For those of you who have configured SmartSimple, anything in those @ signs, right? So @ field name @ and be able to dynamically pass that information through into the AI service and then have it do its thing and then send that back to us. So all those things that you're used to doing with SmartSimple today, and like the template formulas or those web page views, when we're taking dynamic content and seeing it real time on the screen, that same process is available through into the AI service. So that's really cool. And then later on, in a few moments, you'll see Greg will give you some examples of how that works and how it can be displayed in a real life adaptation. So what can we collectively do with AI, plus AI in particular, in terms of our product? And I just want to stress the word collectively, because this is new. This is up and coming. What we've taken care of so far is the technology part. At the end of the day, we're a technology company. This is what we do. This is where our interests lie. This is our specialty. But by no means do we have all the answers or want to prescribe how people will work with the AI. We have some bullet points here of some ideas that, based on the market and what we've seen to date, some areas that it can help. We kind of see it increasing equitability, right? Maybe why should someone be denied a grant because they weren't good at writing, right? Just because my application wasn't as well written as someone else's doesn't mean my cause is any less valuable, right? So this can kind of even the playing field for underserviced areas. A lot of talk about trust-based philanthropy, things like that. We see a large use case here.
100%, Eric, and even just from that, we can also leverage the AI to reduce some of the bias that may be inherent in some of the environments that have been configured in a particular way, right? If the AI is taking the pure facts at face value, and then we can remove some of those bias elements that may have crept in over the time.
100%. We see, creating better focus for staff. So, if ideally, computers were meant to make our lives easier, right? Allow the humans to focus on what they do best. So with the AI now, in the level of analytics that it can do, it can really filter through large amounts of data. So that way, you can shortlist something, and then it could be presented to you and save you all the trouble of having to navigate through thousands of records or figure out, hey, what's the short list here. So it can really save you time and effort. We don't see it replacing people at all. We just think it's better, focusing the work on what you do best.
That's it.
That's where we see it here, right?
It's a tool just like any other, right? You can't use the hammer. The hammer isn't going to just hit the nail into the wall for you. You have to pick it up and you have to strike it. And so, right. This kind of thing can be used in a similar way. The AI can reference those prompts that you're passing it and give you real-time contextualized insights and information on what you're trying to achieve at that particular moment in time. So more so than anything else, it's a tool to be used rather than any kind of replacement.
Exactly. And collaboration, right? Like at the end of the day, we're collaborating with each other. Maybe it can improve our communication, help summarize our thoughts, things like that, or put it more succinctly, from a collaboration point of view, right? And just give a better understanding of the impact. It's hard to deal with the large amounts of data and analyze it. Things like the Plus AI here can really, hammer through that data and pull out all the relevant bits and say what's common amongst all these. We had 1,000 grants this year. What's the common theme about them, or what's all the ones that we've approved? Is there a commonality? Like what's happening, or how has this made an impact? Right, impact's a big concern these days, and it's can help us understand the impact and maybe put things in a clearer format for us.
Yeah, I think it also helps to understand the gaps in the impact as well. So if organizations have traditionally been focused on one particular area or one particular type of program, it allows organizations to read between those lines and understand potentially areas that they're missing. And it goes back to that equitability piece at the top of the screen. Mm-hmm. Again, those areas that may have been underfunded or underengaged in the past can be brought to the forefront of the process now.
Exactly. So, yeah, our Plus AI in action. So this is what we're going to be getting towards in a few moments, but we have some scenarios that we sort of came up with in-house and would like to show you today. But some of those items would be like eligibility, like pre-screening, right? We're talking about filtering through large amounts of data. This can be a useful tool in any eligibility or pre-screening process. We can use it as a supporting an application process. Help me write my content. If I know what it is that we're trying to achieve through this grant, maybe the AI can help me put it more succinctly into content on the page. Even language translation, right? Translating content into different languages, generating summaries, taking essay style answers and saying, well, what's this all about? What's the executive summary here? What are we trying to achieve? Even correspondence, coming up with a letter back or the content of an award letter, maybe a decline letter, making it sympathetic. There's a lot of things that the AI can do and help. And it's not to say that's going to replace, but at least it could give you a starting point, right? It's like, oh, here's a good starting base point, and you can edit it yourself. But at least it gives you something to work with, right? Can help you in your day-to-day there. And then going back from the last slide, the analysis of any impact.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think a key thing again there, Eric, is it's a starting point. So the likes of those summaries, for example, anybody that's on the call that's prepared board books, initial reviews of applications, The AI tool allows you to take full applications and summarize that into 200 or 300 word paragraph that you can then modify and bring into those board books with your own comments. It allows you to polish all of these things as well. So where we talked about correspondence, it allows you to put, modify the tone. So where the platform could always pre-populate or perform word merge, now we can make sympathetic letters on the fly, depending on the context of the individual application. Maybe they fell just short in the review score. Maybe they need a huge amount of work. So the AI can generate context-aware documentation, again, that can then be polished and personalized by the individual staff member. Another thing with the impact that we've been playing with ourselves, was being able to write summaries where we've fallen short of things. So we had one example where we set a target of a goal that we only hit 75% of that target. The AI can generate an analysis with a positive spin on that particular goal. So although we're falling short, it allows us to frame the contextual or the response in a way that still pulls positives out of that. Like that, making the most of the work that's already been done, but understanding that there's still work to do in the long run.
Exactly.
And one final comment from me, the language translation, I think, was a really impressive piece for me personally. I was blown away by the Irish language translation that the ChatGPT was able to perform.
And maybe Greg, give a little background on that. That is your some expertise in that area.
Yeah, as a native speaker, I'm familiar with the shortfalls of Google Translate. The OpenAI integration in particular was able to blow this out of the park completely. And not only that, it was taking the English language prompts, translating it into near perfect Irish, not 100%, but definitely 70 to 80% accurate compared to, maybe the 40-50% that you would have gotten with Google Translate in the past. So that was a really impressive piece, and we'll see from a configuration standpoint how simple some of these things really are within SmartSimple Cloud to actually achieve. We're not talking huge, complicated scripts or anything like that. It is really straightforward configuration for the most part. So I think, Eric, if we're okay at this stage, we'll go under the hood and show the people that are attending here what they want to see.
Exactly. And we've talked enough about it. So this is the show and tell part.
So folks, just to set the scene here a little bit before we dive in, we've configured a specific demonstrator instance of SmartSimple for today's presentation. So I've logged in here as Anushka Barber, who's going to serve the purpose of our applicant for the day. As with everything, standard platform functionality here. We haven't configured anything with any smoke and mirrors. It is all real-time presented information. So we've logged in as an applicant. We're presented with specific calls to action, as you're familiar with. We have a portal with some key shortcuts here. The starting point today for Anushka is going to be her profile. So we're going to make sure that all of our individual information is up to date. We've left some empty fields here. We've just kept things a little bit bare bones. But what I want to do is I want to upload a CV or a resume for this user. Now, this serves two purposes in my presentation today. Anushka here is going to be applying as an organization for funding, but she's also going to apply as a sneaky scholarship applicant. She's going to see that there's an opportunity there, and she's going to chance her arm and apply for that. But what we're going to do is we're going to just upload a CV that I have conveniently to hand. And what this is going to do is we're going to use some other SmartSimple functionality within the platform to actually parse that. So what we're doing is we're taking all of the text from the application or from the resume and storing that into an individual field on that user's profile. So what we can do is we can then reference that further down the line. So remember that when we move around a little bit further. Now, although we're talking about a CV resume here, this can also serve as a previously supplied application form, right? So just because an organization is applying to you for funding right now, it doesn't mean they haven't applied to another organization for funding for the same project in the past. So coming back to that increased or improving equitability bullet that was top of the very first slide there, It allows users to resubmit and reuse applications. So for initial screening, you can get a general idea of what the user is trying to achieve. It gives organizations a huge amount of time back without having to custom tailor custom applications for each part of the process. So Anushka has uploaded her resume. She's uploaded her document. We can see the text here from the resume is stored within SmartSimple. What we're now going to do is we're going to look at an application that she's currently working on. So to quote Blue Peter here, for anybody that's familiar with the TV show, here's one that I prepared a little bit earlier. So my application form is simple. All we've done here is we have one single field. We have nothing else. We have some web page views towards the bottom of the screen that we'll come back to. Within our program, we've also kept this particularly simple. So we have the eligibility criteria defined from our program manager module, and we're now working within our application manager module. Those are the two different UTAs that Eric mentioned from the timeline previously. Now, what we're going to look at here is our supported application process. So this is where we're able to pass variable references directly from an application into the Plus AI integration and get real-time responses from the AI and feedback based on our application. So what we've created here is a simple application that meets the eligibility criteria, right? I think that's quite clear. We've defined where our organization is. We've defined a simple budget. We've defined a timeline. Nothing more than that. What we have, as I said, we've two web page view fields. And these are important in SmartSimple because it allows us to limit the context of the information that's being passed to the AI. So what we have here is a single prompt where we're passing the application body through to the AI, comparing it against the eligibility criteria from the program itself, and making a general recommendation on how to improve the context of that of what's been supplied so far. So we can see here that based on the eligibility criteria, it meets the requirements and it seems to be a good fit for funding. However, we're also getting some general suggestions on how we could proceed and improve the application. So because we don't have any additional information around the education component, for example, or any additional information around the renewable energy structures, those kind of elements could do with expanding to make it more a better fit again.
One thing here is like, I think this, Greg, talks into that, if we're kind of leveling the playing field, it takes away all the individual fields or something, but it gives like a narrative box that you can just say what it is you're trying to do, and you can let the AI process the data, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you can even, and we'll see in the redraft, the supported redraft, the next option, you could even use this as like an ideas board. So you can pop in your ideas based on the eligibility at the top of the screen, and you can actually build your program or your project that you're attempting to get funded in real time as you're actually applying. So it will prompt you and it'll provide feedback in real time on what you're actually passing through. And we can leverage these time and time again. So although we've just clicked this button once to get some initial feedback right now, we can actually come down to the redraft. We can click the redraft button. We can allow the AI to do its thinking around the body that we're passing through to it. And then we can pass it back through the feedback process as well. So in this particular case, to improve the likelihood of the grant being awarded, the following changes can be made. So all it's doing is fleshing out the single narrative box and allowing us to copy and paste and add those additional values in. We can then run this back through the supported process over and over again to get new feedback, new critique, and additional suggestions on how to polish and how to improve that. So it is a truly collaborative process and a truly supported process. And as we talked about previously, again, removing those language barriers, we can start with very simple prompts and very simple facts and functions and build on our application and our narrative over and over again.
And I think here too, Greg, we could, maybe I'm a Spanish speaker and I want to type my content in Spanish and then have the AI not only give me suggested feedback, but also translate it into English.
100%. We can actually leverage the functionality within the platform as well, because we know what the base language the user is using. So we know when they log in that they're logging in through a Spanish login page and that the language is Spanish. So it anticipates that the data being entered is in Spanish. We can then translate that in real time at the point of submission back to English, or vice versa. Maybe you're taking English applications and translating them into Spanish. So there's flexibility there within the platform, leveraging the functionality that already exists, but enhancing it with the plus AI capabilities there as well. So we've written our application, we've improved it so that it's a little bit more polished, a little bit more functional, a little bit cleaner. And we're now going to submit this particular application. We'll come back to it a little later on. A couple of things that I just wanted to reiterate again. These are just purely illustrative examples of how we've been working with AI and how we feel just one or two different use cases may be used. This is going to be a collaborative process for all of us. You know, we want to hear from you folks around potential use cases from you as well, and how you would like to use it. And then we can work together to see if there's opportunities there to bring those to fruition within the platform. So I'm going to submit this application. It can, you know, give me my confirmation. It can tie in with all of the other automated processes within the platform. But as I mentioned, Anushka here is going to be a little bit cheeky at the same time, and she's going to come into her funding opportunities and see that there's a scholarship application that's available here as well. So conveniently labeled Irish Canadian scholarship opportunity. So we're going to apply for this. We're going to assume that Anusha is going to read the submission guidelines, but chance her arm anyway and proceed further. Again, we have our eligibility criteria, but what you'll notice in this particular case is we have a pre-populated resume based on what we've actually pulled in from that user's profile. So there's no re-entry, there's no additional fields here whatsoever. So as long as that CV or resume has been stored in the profile, it can be pulled into the application process. And all Anushka actually has to do is either decide if she wants to submit the application or withdraw it. So again, although we're talking about a scholarship application, this same functionality can lend itself well to capturing previously existing applications so that users don't have to redraft those things if there's an overlap with a program that you're potentially funding. So again,
yeah,
we're going
or
to
even or year over year if they're applying for the same grant. You know, we always get questions about, oh, can I copy from the previous year's grant and use it again? It's a similar approach here.
Absolutely. So what we've done, again, we've submitted it and we're just going to return home. Now we're going to finish our time with Anushka. She's going to go on her merry way and she can go about her day. And we're going to return to our demonstrator system as an administrator. Now, again, we're presenting information in real time here. So as the applications go through the various processes, you know, they are reflected. Now, front and center here, we have two things that we can see. We can see that our application promoting renewable energy use for sustainable environmental management in Florida Everglades has already passed the AI pre-screen process. But unfortunately, Anushka's scholarship application has failed that pre-screen process. So what we can do is we can actually go in here and we can see why that's being the case. So we have our eligibility, we have our CV and our resume, and we have our review. So again, we've kept this really, really simple in our demonstrator environment just to illustrate some particular use cases. So what we've done here is we've stored what we've received from the AI on the pre-screening process. So here we can see the application does not meet the eligibility criteria. It's not in one of the specified fields of the program. The GPA is below the required minimum of 3.0, and therefore we're giving it a score of 2 out of 10. And then we're also including a tag here at the end to suggest declination. And what we're doing with that tag is we're referencing it within the workflow engine within the background of the platform, and we're changing the status based on that particular tag. So we're able to use the results of the AI, pass them through to the existing functionality and the existing automation within the platform, and make those real-time decisions based on what's being returned. And again, I want to reiterate here that this is configured as a pre-screening functionality. We're not taking this as pure fact, right? We're not removing the review process from this. We're essentially making sure removing, you know, applications that are unlikely to succeed if there's no threshold being met we're removing those from the pool to be reviewed further on down the line. We can, of course, always override these things, but right now we're just going to accept that there's a whole host of different eligibility criteria that have failed. So this user is not going to be awarded that particular scholarship. So looking then at our application that was approved, we're going to go in and have a little bit more of a deeper dive into this particular application. So within the review tab here, there's a couple of things that we want to point out. So we can see again our review score. Here we've given it an 8 out of 10. It meets all of the eligibility criteria, clear focus on promoting renewable energy. The budget is within the limit and the timeline is reasonable. We are getting some additional feedback on how it could be further improved. But overall, because it ticks the majority of the boxes, we're going to suggest that it's approved, and we're going to give it an AI score of 90%. Now, if we scroll down to the bottom of the screen here, we can see that we have some actual review forms that have been submitted that unfortunately completely contradict what is being defined by the AI. And this is important. The reviewers can always read between the lines of what the AI can. So there's more context, there's more understanding of the individual project, the focus of the individual organization that's funding the project, and perhaps the relationship even with the applicant user themselves than what the AI is receiving in this scenario. So we have configured this, of course, to be completely conflicting. We're getting opposite ends of the spectrum here to illustrate that the reviewers will still need to step in and submit those reviews. So in this case, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Greg. I think too, that's why even the wording that we used in the response from the AI is it's a suggested approve to indicate that this is not, you know, a final answer, so to speak, but based on the information that was fed to the AI through the platform, it would make that recommendation. But by no means is it you know, all said and done at that stage.
Absolutely, and I think it's key to point out as well here that this replaces kind of the previous eligibility quizzes that, you know, we may have been configuring within the platform, where we had radio buttons and things would be submitted and there would be a review of eligibility at some stage. The AI is removing that burden near entirely, and that's the key. It's those initial screening processes that expanding on those eligibility conditions and screening processes is really where the AI is working well in this particular scenario. Now, what we've done in our fictitious environment here, or what my colleague Garrett has done, is prepare 2 simple review forms. Now, he scored them with numeric values, but we've also written narrative around each of these scores as well. So we've designed these review forms in such a way that they clearly fail. They're way below the threshold. Now, what we can do is we can, again, click our AI review button and pass the narrative comments from the review forms straight through to the AI and get a summary of those comments based on what the AI is interpreting from the comments of the section. So here, we're not actually looking at the numerical values, although we have defined the numerical values in a similar way that reflects the narrative in the comments. What we're doing here is we're interpreting the comments from the 2 individual review forms. The AI is analyzing and summarizing those and then providing a score based on the narrative. So again, it's kind of flipping the coin a little bit, where previously we would have been taking reviews purely numeric, you know, numeric values, and taking the narrative and structuring it and providing a numeric value based on the interpretation of those scores. So based on the 2 out of 10 here, we can actually see that the score is very close to the numerical representation that the reviewers themselves have specified. And again, we're passing these values through in real time out to the AI. That you can see in the load times that is actually going out. We're not storing any of these values other than the comments. The response from the AI at the top of that screen is actually being generated right now. Another example, coming back to that board book, would be to generate an executive summary of the application. So again, we're taking the full body and everything that's been written to date and generating that summary into 200 or 300 words that we can then leverage and use in other areas of the platform. And of course, within our web page view, we have a couple of different options here that we can print it, we can email it, we can edit it on the fly and export it. So just to reiterate that the AI is an enhancement on the underlying platform features and functionality within the system. So maybe at this point, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Greg. Some questions have come up. I thought it'd be easier just to, instead of typing out responses. Yeah, just so it's very clear, and kind of going back to the sort of diagram we showed earlier on in the presentation. We're fortunate in that the way we've designed SmartSimple Cloud from the get-go, and the dynamic nature of the forms and how we have the variable processor, that's allowed all of this to happen. This is an integration just like any other tool that we've plugged into, no different than the way we would work with DocuSign or Adobe Sign or GuideStar, for example. We've and that's the sort of point of that integration server. So all the information and all the stuff that's Greg showing you today is actually working with existing features and functionality within the system. There's nothing, this isn't replacing anything. It's using everything you're seeing on the screen today. It's the submit buttons, text fields, display fields, workflow engine, changing statuses. That's all existing functionality. All we're really doing is using those variables and using the data within the platform to then pass it through to that integration server into the AI service. In this case, we're using OpenAI for the presentation here, what everyone is hearing about in the news, the Chat GPT. But that's really the special part about it, it's just working with how we've designed the platform today. Because we have a sort of an open architecture, and it's not a closed system, we were able to do this and able to adapt to how the OpenAI works. So just to give a summary, we could follow up. I know there's some questions in there. We will follow up just to reiterate what Steph said at the beginning. Anything that we don't answer in today's session, we will follow up with all your questions post-webinar and provide you more details, or even if we need to set up a one-on-one chat, we'd be happy to do so. Sorry, Greg.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. And just talking about the variables and the variable processor before I go under the hood and show some of the configuration of how this works. Those on the line may be familiar with the configuration mode. It allows us to select individual fields on the record itself and go under the hood and look at the actual configuration of that particular field. And I wanted to select this and show this because I wanted to pick the application body, and just so that everybody sees how this variable is worded and labeled. There's nothing else in here. We're not putting in any kind of default values or placeholder text or anything like that. Just to reiterate that the values are being passed through to the variable processor and then out to OpenAI. So this is what we're doing. So we're taking this variable reference and we're passing it through to the AI via the workflow engine. So if I go into my workflows, I have one very simple one created to serve this purpose with a couple of different tasks. So when the application is submitted, it triggers this process flow and it runs through the various different tasks. Now I have two different types of application in my system. So I have a branching task, one to go to the AI for the supported application, one to go for the scholarship. The reason for that is because I have a resume field for my scholarship application and an application body field for my supported application, but they both function the same way. But the underlying last task is very, very simple. So this is what we're doing. We have a task within the workflow to update a custom field value. We're selecting the field that we want to update with the result that gets retrieved from OpenAI. And then what we're doing here, sorry, I'm just moving my floating head around. This is how the prompt out to the AI is structured. So we have a simple HTML comment tag here where we're referencing the AI. We're referencing OpenAI in this particular case because that's what we're working with today. The model that we're referencing is ChatGPT. And then this number at the end is the temperature or the kind of artistic license of interpretation that you allow for the AI to have when you're passing the variables through. So we've kept it pretty conservative, given it's a real-time presentation of the integration for the first time. We wanted to keep it pretty simple, but this is a value from 1 to 9. So if you go to 9, it allows the AI to have to be more creative with the response that it retrieves back. But what we're doing here is we're, again, just in pretty simple English, passing, the name, the applicant information with the title of the project. It's for a grant with this particular eligibility. So when we're using these variables, it's querying the eligibility on the particular record at the point in time that the application is submitted. So the AI is receiving the eligibility at that specific point in time. Likewise, the grant application is received as for the organization with this particular name, and it contains the body of the application. So this is the field on the application that I just showed in configuration mode. We're not doing anything else here, simple variable references. And then we're giving the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the instruction to the AI. So give the application a score of 0 to 10. Highly unlikely to be approved. Applications that do not meet all of the eligibility criteria should receive a score of 3 out of 10. And then we're responding with the suggested approval or declination at the end as a tag.
And I think just to call out here, you can see, like, for those who are familiar with configuring within the platform, if you look at what Greg's done here, a lot of it is just plain English. We're telling the AI what we want it to do. You're not learning any specific syntax. It's not a cryptic formula where everything has to be in the right order with the right commas or semicolons or opening, closing brackets. Other than saying that initial call saying, hey, we want to use the AI and we happen to be using OpenAI, and other than ending it, everything in that body is really plain English, but with the power of pulling data from those variables like Greg had mentioned. So in real time, so it's unique to every response, it's saying, hey, whatever the applicant typed into the application body field, use that and then score it, right? So you can see here, we can easily read what we want the AI to do. And it really just takes things to a next level. I mean, from a configuration standpoint, this is probably one of the, easiest things we've ever done from an administrative point of view. It's just, if you know the fields you want it to look at, but everything else, it's just so everyone's clear, like the words that you can actually just read on the screen, give the application a score from 0 to 10. That's what we're telling the AI to do. So this is not just text that's going to show up on the screen. This is actually the instruction. This is the instruction we're giving to the AI to say, hey, take this data and this is how we want you to score it. And it's all in just plain English.
Yep. That's it. And the web page views, those buttons on the application and the buttons on the review forms are configured in the exact same way with the exact same prompt. Granted, they're wrapped in, the HTML and the CSS for the layout, but within the primary piece of that web page view configuration is just a similar paragraph of text referencing the variables on the application form and passing that prompt then out to the AI to resolve it.
And again, just to go back to questions, Greg, the more we go on, the more questions are popping up, and that's great. Like we said at the very beginning, this is a collaboration. We see this as a collaboration between us and yourselves. By no means do we have all the answers, or do we know, we can't predict the future. We know this is going to be big. We know AI is coming and it's here to stay, and it's going to operate in a commercial environment. So how can we utilize this tool? As Greg mentioned, it's a tool. It's not replacing anybody, but how can we leverage this tool to make all of our lives easier and empower each other to achieve what we need to achieve within the platform?
Yeah, 100%. And just one last comment on the tool. When I was preparing for this presentation, the AI wrote all of the resumes and tailored all of those resumes for me. I wasn't writing those resumes and changing them to be approved or declined, or maybe approved or maybe it declined. And that's it. It saved me a huge amount of preparation time in preparing. I still have to do the configuration, but the document preparation themselves was all handled by the Plus AI integration. So Eric, I think with that, we can resume some closing slides and answer any questions then that may come through at the end.
Sure. Yeah, just a few more pieces I think we just want to mention. Um, just some future considerations here. Like I said, this is early days. What we've shown you today is some easy, quick wins, low hanging fruit, what have you, that you could use today in the platform. That's not too hard to configure or implement. Some of the things that we've already been thinking about and working on for phase two, for lack of a better word, is actually bringing your own learning model. So what we haven't shown today is when you feed the AI a bunch of a data set, and you have it say, hey, analyze this large chunk of information and tell us what you've learned from that. We have, I don't know if they want to mention it, but we have some clients already doing this with their own AI, where they're using it to match reviewers. This is for research granting, using it to identify reviewers who are best matched for grants. So, how can we make sure that we have the right people reviewing these highly detailed, highly scientific grants that we're receiving? The next step as well is to be more interactive. So this is also stay tuned for more of this. This is where right now what we've been doing is feeding the AI some information. It gives us a response back. End of transaction. The idea here is to take it into more of that conversation. What you're seeing now in ChatGPT, where I ask it something, it returns an answer, and then maybe I follow up with a further question or something like that, but more of a back and forth. So stay tuned for that. The interactive AI model is not too far away.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool as well, because it takes what people are starting to get familiar with ChatGPT, but brings it into the platform. So you're not going out into the wild. But what we've also worked with as well is defining some templates that can be referenced. So administrators within the platform can build out their own templates that their team and colleagues can use, frequently used prompts, so that they can be passed to the AI in context. So, for example, you may be reviewing a grant application and you want some background information on the organization. Administrators could build out a prompt that says, give me some background information on this organization name that's applying for funding. And that can pass the AI, and it'll return whatever information that it can get related to that particular organization. And again, it's that full collaboration. So you can, when we talked about the supported application process, it could be a supported executive summary process. It could be, supported board meeting preparation, right? So any of those kind of things, although we've illustrated some use cases here, it's not an exhaustive list by any means.
No. And a lot of this is, I think there was a question there about timelines. This is a top priority for us. It's been a focus. We're putting a lot of resources into getting this up and running. A lot of it is determinant, though, on the AI products themselves. So what they support and what they allow. So they're moving at a pretty fast pace. So are we. We've built it in a way where it's not locked into a single AI provider. In this case, OpenAI is ahead of the curve. They're ready to accept this kind of interaction, so we're working with them. The other tools like Google Bard and stuff, they're not far away. As soon as they're ready, we're ready. So, these kind of changes would be within the next year or so. They're not far off, and we'll give you let you know when they're ready to go, as soon as we have it ready for market.
Right.
I think if we go just some final thoughts, this is, of course, everyone, it's like, okay, great. How do we use this? How much does it cost? So it's actually available now. It's already in the platform. It's in the current release. So if you've upgraded, if you're already on the March release of SmartSimple Cloud, you have this available to you. There are some constraints in that you do need to have an OpenAI account, a subscription. So as long as you have your own credentials, it's the same model, like I said, of any other third-party service, like a DocuSign, Adobe Sign. If you have your credentials, then you can plug them in. It is a subscription service, so there'll be some additional fees around this. You can talk to your account managers about that for more details and on how that will affect your costs, individual clients. But as a kind of promotion, we're actually, waiving 4 months worth of the subscription to the Plus AI in the product now. So if you're willing to try it out, you want to see how it can improve your system or take advantage of it, then we are giving a discount. I'd say like a third of the price off, based on the 4 months for the subscription. So there is some cost savings for some early adopters. So please take advantage of that if you'd like to play around. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I must say. I think we have a few, we're coming up to time. We just want to do a few shout outs before we wrap it up and maybe take a look at the questions here. You'll get to see Greg again in action next week through TAG. So there's a presentation that TAG is hosting. This is not our webinar, but we will be sitting on the panel. Greg will be attending that. It'll be a broader AI conversation. So they're great folks over there. Please attend that webinar. Always great working with them. We will be doing due to high demand today, we'll be running another session like this in case you want to send some of your colleagues that weren't able to attend today. Within a couple of weeks time frame, we'll be doing another a second showing, if you like it, of this presentation. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, any of the questions that we did not answer to you directly live in the chat box or here live in person, we will follow up with all your questions post webinar directly with those who raised them. Another reminder, we do have our Unite conference being held in Barcelona in May with our gracious hosts, La Caixa Foundation. Thank you so much for allowing us to host the event at your facilities. There will be a lot of AI talk at that event. So if you can attend, I'd suggest tickets are available now. But please, if you'd like to have more discussions around AI, learn more about what we're doing with SmartSimple Cloud, please, if you can work it out with your budget or timelines, please attend our conference in May. You can find out more information about that on our website as well. Maybe now we have a few minutes left. Maybe we can answer a couple of questions. Let's see here. What can I answer in a timely fashion?
There's one there. There's one there around how AI can work with our employee engagement platform. And I think the AI works in the same way. So regardless of if you're in grants management, corporate social responsibility, research grants, scholarships, or insurance, the actual integration itself works in the exact same way. Where the differences would be in the specific scenarios and use cases. So the analyzing of data may be slightly different, or the interpretations of some of the variables that are being passed are different, but the actual underlying configuration of the AI is the exact same.
Now, there's one question on here I'd like to just talk to you a little bit, because it's pretty interesting. We were just talking about it last night and even before the webinar today. The question is, I use ChatGPT as a programming assistant outside of SmartSimple. Has there been an attempt to have it program SmartSimple code, smart check validation, complex calculations in displayed text variables? Well, believe it or not, because with our own ChatGPT account, because we're using our own account, and it's it's iterative, it's a kind of learning model approach that we're taking. Greg and I were laughing last night in that it actually returned when it returned us the question we were querying, it actually returned us code. Like it returned us SmartSimple syntax. So it's learned, oh, if you want to do this, you should put at this field add, and at this field add. So it'll get there. I don't know how accurate it is at the moment, but for sure we really see that as being able to help you even program within SmartSimple Cloud.
Yeah, that was incredible. We were just using it just to pass the same prompts, the eligibility and the application body itself through. Yeah. But what it came back with was expected variable references, where it thought variable references should go. And it's done this before in the past where it puts, dear applicant name or dear granting staff in square brackets. But in this particular case, it wrapped it in the @ symbols that we were using in our demo environments or in SmartSimple. And then it also matched the naming convention for the field names that we were using, which was, it really was incredible. That's because we're using our OpenAI subscription across multiple different demo environments. So although the variables didn't exist in the demonstrator instance, they had been referenced somewhere and were being attributed from what we previously sent through.
There's another question here, just integrating AI with the locally hosted model. Yes, for sure. And that, again, just to stress, the way we built this, we're not limited to OpenAI ChatGPT, but we've built this in a way that we could integrate with any AI service wherever it may be. So if you want to think of it as like a bring your own AI type of model, if you have an AI you want to use and you want to work with it in this sort of manner, then as long as there's an API or some way to communicate with that AI, then definitely we could link into it. So a lot of this stuff is dependent, I will say, on the third party, on the AI provider.
Yeah.
There's another question about character limits. Again, that will depend on your level of subscription or what that AI allows for an individual query, through the AI. So, we have no control over those things. It will be dependent on the AI service. So I would check with whichever one you're using and seeing what the constraints are in terms of what you can query, what things of that nature.
And there's also another question there around images and other formats outside of plain text. I'd imagine we'll get there. The ChatGPT 4 announcement the other week did just that. It took an image and rendered that into another, I think it was JavaScript format. So I think it's only a matter of time before we can take files and reference those as well. We're keeping up with the developments as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Another question: where the testing data come from? It's just our own data. We just made it up. It's not anything real. We have our own demo system that we've put some time in to creating, sample programs and sample application forms. So we just fed it our own.
With the exception of the resumes, I did get the AI to write the resumes for me because
the AI made its own content.
yeah.
So sorry, I'm getting the music here to stop talking. We're going to wrap up, but like I said, we will follow up with any of the questions, even the ones that we did answer live. We'll just kind of reiterate them to you in writing. So don't worry, we'll get back to you. Again, I want to thank everyone for their time today, for attending. This is very exciting. Just to stress the fact that, yes, this is a collaborative effort, please. So any ideas, we're open to hear about it. We want to see, did this resonate with you? Can you see these kind of use cases? Were we off the mark? What are your use cases? How do you foresee using a tool like this with the SmartSimple Cloud plus AI, affecting your business today? Like I said, a few more webinars coming up. Tag next week. We'll be rerunning ours in a couple weeks' time. And if you can attend, please join us in Barcelona, beautiful city, in May for a conference where we'll have kind of taking these conversations to the next level and doing a little deeper dive on that. So once again, thank you, everyone, and hope to speak with you soon.
Just a thanks from me as well, folks. Really appreciate you taking the hour out of your day. And for questions, comments, feedback, good, bad, indifferent, or any of those scenarios that you're thinking about, platform solutions at smartsimple.com. If you wouldn't mind, that would be much appreciated. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.